social media as DBpsychology. So today we're going to talk about overthinking. This week's blog was all about how to stop overthinking. Basically, it uses a two-pronged attack on what's going on in our heads and in our lives, because it is all interconnected, as we know. When we realize that overthinking is in fact a habit, it is a strategy that we use and that we can slip into unconsciously. But when we raise our awareness and we realize that it is a strategy that we're using, it is a negative strategy sometimes that we use, and we realize then, when we raise that awareness, we can realize we can actually change this. This habit creates a negative cycle in our heads, and it sets us up for so many mental and physical side effects that I'm going to talk about. In the blog, I actually list out 10 different patterns or thought traps that we can go into, and the reason I do that is because it's very handy to be able to actually see. Once you start to actively work on it and see how you're thinking and write it down, we can then analyze the patterns and what it is we're doing with those patterns. What patterns are we creating, such as overgeneralizing, such as mental filters, so therefore we only see the negatives. We're not seeing any positives in our lives. If we're using something like jumping to conclusions, then we're predicting the future and things like that, not based perhaps on a solid fact, or this may not happen, but we're jumping to conclusions all the time, and it's always in a negative way. That's the thing about these negative patterns, or these thought patterns. They're traps, and they create a negative cycle. Another one we'd be familiar with would be catastrophizing. So everything is going to turn out negative. There's not going to be a bright future. It's going to be negative. So they're just some of them, and I'm not going to list them all. I'm not going to go into any detail about them this morning. The blog, this blog could go on and on and on if I was to go into any great detail. So do check them out, because they are a handy list to have, and if you are working on your thought patterns. If you feel that this has caused you too much stress, if it's causing you too much anxiety, if it's triggering depression or anything like that, I would, as always, stress to you that you need to reach out for professional help with this. So you can check out those details, and you can also download them from my website on my resources page, which is at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com. You can download those lists and other worksheets to do with automatic thinking, and there is one on there's a worksheet that helps you step through your thinking patterns, so you can check those out on the resource page. All for free, no sign-ups for the moment. There's no sign-ups. Just scroll the way down towards the end and you'll see all the free ones. So what are the physical and mental health effects of setting up these thinking traps in our head? Basically, we have lost a sense of control. We've also, given ourselves the possibility that we don't actively participate. We're not proactive in making decisions because we can't think clearly enough to do that. So we've set up a negative cycle, and therefore we're not thinking clearly. We're not going to make correct or clear decisions that are in our best interest, and that's what we have to break. We're decreasing our immunity, and that we don't want to be doing that right now. We're upping our stress levels and all the physical problems that comes when we are overstressed. Our mood is lower, so again we're going into a negative cycle with the mood. We're lacking self-confidence. We're going down again. We're not trusting ourselves. We've lost the trust in our gut instinct, and as I said, we're not thinking clearly, and our anxiety levels will go up, and will possibly trigger an anxiety disorder or a depression within us. So a lot of things can happen when we get into those negative cycles, when we get into those negative thought patterns. So we are setting ourselves up for physical and mental problems. So the strategies that I suggest in the blog, I'm going to go through them very briefly, are a two-pronged attack. I always think of people need a two-pronged attack for something like this. The first attack, and they can be run simultaneously, but the first one I always suggest is to get back a sense of control in your life, because when we are in these negative thought traps, we have lost a sense of control, a feeling of security, a feeling of trusting ourselves, and a feeling of not being, in control of our own lives. So we need to take back control. So we need to build our self-confidence again. We need to build the trust in ourselves, our gut instinct, and we need to set healthy boundaries. We need to start setting healthy boundaries. An awful lot of the time, people with thinking patterns like this will also be very busy people who are taking on other people's responsibilities, and we keep ourselves go, 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 go. So we don't even have a time to stop and think, oh, what's going on? What's actually going on inside me? What's going on inside my head? So I'm going to say it, as always, self-care. And what I mean by that is, we're going to use meditation, even something as simple as a 3-minute breather, using the 4-6 technique, which is based on the 4-7-7, the 7-11 technique. So it's basically you count in for 4 and out for 7 to reduce down our stress levels, and that calm down the mind, calm down our breathing, and recenter ourselves. If we use that even for 3 minutes a day throughout the day, if we get in a habit of doing that, picking a time, such as every time you go to the bathroom, you pick a time to do, then every time you go to the bathroom, you just start doing the 4-6 technique. Calm yourself down. If you can bring it up to 7-11, that's great, but it's not necessarily so. 3 minutes. Something as simple as that can help, as I said, slow down the brain, slow down the thought patterns in order for us to start recognizing them. And that'll be part of the second prong attack that I'll talk about in a minute. So your self-care, meditation, working on your sleep patterns, journaling, even something as simple as doing a brain dump every night to get the thoughts out down on paper so you can start to see them and start to recognize them, but getting everything down so that helps our sleep. Building up our gratitude to build up our confidence. Remember, these thought patterns have built a negative cycle in your head. You're not really seeing the whole picture. It may be overemphasized on the negative. So therefore we have to recognize what positives can we see that we already do have in our lives. So that would be part of this strategy of taking back control and taking back our confidence and starting to trust ourselves. And also, of course, basic self-care includes meeting all our physical needs. Are we eating correctly? Are we dressing? Are we showering? All those things, the basics that we would do with that. The other part of that is learning to accept ourselves and to have compassion. And I've spoke about both of those in great detail over the last few weeks. So do check out those vlogs or the blogs on the website. The second part of the pronged attack, if you like, is to take charge of the overthinking itself. So we're building up our self-confidence, we're re-establishing trust in ourselves, we're setting boundaries by doing all those self-care items I talked about. So now we're using the meditation and the journal in order to identify and build awareness, because the first step in attacking the overthinking itself is to build awareness. What are you thinking? When am I thinking? What is triggering me? And I have 7 questions to actually help you identify that, and it's in the blog that you can go and check out those questions. So when we've built in awareness, most people then think they just skip to action and they start tackling it. They start to try and tackle things, and that's a falsehood, because it can set you up to fail. You are much better off accepting where you are right now. This is how I'm thinking. I am aware of this is the way I think. And then just take a breath to become accepting of this is how I have been thinking, has resulted in some actions that weren't quite good for me, and to accept that. And that, that is helping for you also to empower yourself, because you're accepting who you are for this moment in time, that you've done the best you can right up until this moment with the knowledge you had, and that's okay. To accept that that was okay. I did the best I could. Now I'm aware and I know better. But give yourself that moment to reach acceptance, and don't skip it. It's not a good. It's not a good thing to just skip over that or skim over it. And then, of course, we go to the action part of it. And the action part of it is we have certain techniques that we can use. One is when we use the actual journal and writing it down, we can see it, we can identify the patterns. We see what the thoughts are. How am I thinking? What am I actually saying to myself? Who owns those thoughts? Where did that original idea come from? Then we can challenge that. We can challenge our thoughts, and we can challenge our fears. An awful lot of what we are thinking has come out of fear. What am I exactly afraid of? What's the worst case scenario, if you like, that could happen out of this? Another technique that we would also use at this stage would be distraction techniques. I do talk about one in the blog. It's a healthy distraction. It's not going off and sitting mindlessly watching TV or climbing into bed, pulling the covers over your head. It's not that kind of a distraction. This is a healthy distraction where we use our senses to center ourselves. And I talk you through that and lay it out and how you can do that in the blog. The next thing is to create a worry period, because you can't just change your thinking overnight. It's not going to happen. So if we start to ease back when we will allow ourselves to worry, and when we won't, we will do other things to keep us busy. And I'll get onto that in a second. But if we create a worry period, which is a set period of time, that could be anywhere for 10 minutes every hour on the hour. It could be for 1 hour a day. It could be for 20 minutes for a day. And I've talked about creating worry periods before. We create the period, we allow ourselves for 10 or 15 minutes to worry or let the head go whatever way we want. And then we write it down. We write down the thoughts, the predominant thoughts that we remember that came up during that period of time. Again, then we can go back to challenging them and to facing the fears. And another technique then we would use also simultaneously would be to get busy, get better. And this is to get busy in a positive way. And to use it in a positive way to distract ourselves, to distract our head. And I've outlined in detail more about all of this in the blog. So if you'd like to check it out, it's at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com. I have freebies, as I said, on the website, resources that you can check out as well. Now, if you want more step-by-step strategies on how to do all that, I have that in my own book. I have my book out. It's on the website, or you can buy it on Amazon. And it's called The Building Blocks of Self-Care. And I literally go step by step by step by step with all the worksheets you could possibly need about building back your self-confidence, about building back your self-trust, about getting a good foundation, and about self-care, and what I think is self-care, which we tackle journaling, we tackle gratitude, we tackle our sleep, we tackle boundaries. And we tackle this thing of thinking and how we think, and to change our thinking and to change our positive to a more positive thinking stance in our brain. So do check that out. I'd love to hear people's comments on the book if they've read it. And so it's there on my page on Amazon, as I said. And don't forget, I also have a Facebook group for mums. If you're very stressed at the moment, do come and join us. There's a link on the website at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices. You'll find an image with less stress, more success for mums on the website. You just click on that and it'll bring you straight to the group, and you can join if you like, if you're a stressed mum at the moment and you need some extra support. And we're talking about these things, we're talking about these strategies, and I'm walking you through them, and I'm giving files to the women in that group. All the things on sleep, we've done sleep and meditation and basic self-care up to now, and we are going to build from that, and we will be tackling overthinking. So I'm going to leave it there this morning. And as always, thank you to everybody who's watching live, and Deirdre in particular. She's great every single week watching me live. And to everybody who watches in replay, thank you very much for watching. And I will see you all next Saturday morning as always.